Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. I did not mute the microphone during the intro there, so I guess you got to hear me have a coughing fit, huh? All right, well, I did miss some news here already. I don't know what my deal has been. I need to look at my morning schedule here because I've been late many times. I think the piece of news that we're looking at here that is causing the market to react, though, is that we just got U.S. durable goods. So for the headline U.S. durable goods number, they were expecting a negative 0.8 and we got a positive 0.7. Also, for durable goods was spot 4 versus an expected spot 1. So that did cause a little bit of downside reaction here in the treasuries. Did not result, well, actually it did result in a new low by a few ticks. And there was some downside action overnight. So we actually have a kind of an interesting setup here. People will want to go home early for Memorial Day weekend. If you guys, in Europe, you realize this is like one of the most important holiday weekends, okay? There's no religious connotations or anything like that, but it's like the holiday right at the beginning of the summer or at mid-spring, let's say. And so, like, people go camping and do stuff outside, right? So they're ready to go. But the market is giving me signs that they've got business to do today. So let's stay sharp. I don't know if I'm still in the mood to take a trade, but we'll see. Maybe. Here's the ZN, so you can see they were starting to recover from that PMI yesterday. And then, London opened and they just got shoved back down. It's pretty bearish. The treasuries are just awfully bearish. I think that I would be kind of leaning towards the short side, but let's kind of sum all our flows together and so forth. Okay, S&P 500. Yeah, the Nvidia earnings were great and all, but the market just got destroyed yesterday. Everything was down except for Nvidia. That one is wild. Right? Oil kind of down a little bit too. Gold and silver looking a little unhappy. Kappa. We're still just hanging out down there after the 2 days ago. Japanese yen continues its slow and steady decline. That does not look positive to me, man. I kind of think you got to do something more than just currency intervention at some point. Maybe just me. Maybe you need to raise interest rates or something. I don't know. And Bitcoin, a little bit of a sell-off yesterday, but not too much damage done. But it did kind of erase that nice little spike that they had. It's Friday. Stop working. Start drinking. Oh man. Listen, I know you're all ready to start the weekend early, but I don't think that you should start your weekend by drinking. Memorial Day is a really good opportunity to get things done. You don't want to waste it all just being hungover the whole time. That is good, crisp, cold water. Don't know why my fridge decided to bless me with cooler water, but it tastes good. I'm terrible with jokes. I am. Certainly am. This is why, you know, I tried to be the comedian for a while. I mean, I do think we have fun on the stream and that it's pretty funny sometimes, but I'm not a comedian. I don't think I could make it as a comedian. Yeah. Well, so we had that downside action. The Treasury seemed to be holding. There's a really big order at 17. I'm kind of wondering. So did you see yesterday? Was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. After the stream ended, if you kept watching the Treasuries, there was like 2 really huge orders that were on the DOM. But then as they kind of came back towards it, they disappeared. The market never really ended up going lower. I strongly suspect that there could be some plunge protection intervention going on in the Treasuries. You would think you would sing this meme. Was this meme? Oh, I have not seen that. What the heck is this? Oh my gosh. What the heck am I? Oh my gosh. What did you just send me? Oh my gosh. This is... I find this strangely terrifying. Oh my god. What? Wait, who's the white-haired girl? Oh man. That is, man. I find that so messed up. Wait, I can turn the volume up. Oh yeah, it's playing. I don't remember the name of this song, but I probably shouldn't play it on the stream because, you know, it'll get flagged. High energy though, man. Especially like Joe Biden with the chain necklace and everything is like really disturbing to me. Oh man. No, I have not seen that. Where did that come from? That doesn't seem like something that you would see on Reddit. Maybe the Donald. Oh man, I don't know why, but like yesterday, it's okay. I think I do know why. Okay, here I have a theory. I have a theory that Disney pays social media companies to boost their works in the algorithm. So like normally, you might search about something or look into something. And it's just kind of, well, they kind of like that. Maybe I'll show them a little bit more of that in the future, maybe. But if you go on Reddit and you like leave a comment on a Star Wars post, it's just going to show you all of the Star Wars stuff on Reddit all the time because Disney pays them to boost it, right? So I left a comment on a Star Wars thread somewhere. Where was it? Oh, you know what it was is because the Phantom Menace is like back in theaters and everything, and people were arguing about, why are the prequels held in the regard that they are now, or and will the sequels be held in the same regard? I don't think that they will, but so yeah, so now it's got me thinking about Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. I might as well just spill it now. So here's my thought. Like, I don't think I'm gonna say something that I haven't said before and that other people haven't said, but I feel like that what I'm gonna say is like a more complete explanation of what's going on in pop culture right now. And when I was thinking about this yesterday, because Reddit started showing me all of this Star Wars stuff, I was like, really, oh my gosh, that like once I start working from that kind of model and framework, it's so much easier to explain certain things. So, what is it? I think that what's going on in pop culture right now is that Hollywood basically doesn't believe anything. So, you know, especially on the left, but and in Hollywood in particular, they've kind of come to this idea that like everything is true and nothing is true. And you know, they might claim to believe things, but they don't really ultimately believe things. They will profess beliefs on social media because they're narcissists and they think that those vain professions will elevate them in the eyes of others, but they never put their neck out for anything. Because if you do, like, you immediately get cut down in today's society, right? No, they don't actually believe anything. And if you don't believe anything, then you really miss the point of a lot of stories, basically. So I think that the best example of this is Indiana Jones. Like, everybody complains about Star Wars and what happened to Star Wars, but I think it's more useful to look at what happened to Indiana Jones. So have you ever seen this Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon is going on about how great Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark is? And then at the end, his girlfriend is like, well, but it's a terrible story because nothing that Indiana Jones does affects anything in the story. Maybe that's the ADHD-ism, whatever, in me. But like, that argument, like, irks me so much. I hate it so much because it completely misses the entire point of the Indiana Jones movies. Like, it misses the entire narrative arc of it. Because the narrative arc of Indiana Jones is not that some change happens in the world. It's a change that happens in Indiana Jones. And it's the most pure, like, Christian storyline that you can possibly make. So what is the story? Indiana Jones is a competent guy. He is a he's a professor. He's well known, like, around the world. He does adventures. He is good with that whip. He is good at fighting. But despite all of his competence, he always comes up short and then is saved in the end by his faith. That is the story of Indiana Jones. Okay? It's about faith. And if you do not believe in anything, that all just goes, like, right over your head. It just goes right over your head. People in Hollywood think that Indiana Jones is just an aesthetic. You know, it takes place in, like, the 1930s, but in jungles and castles and, you know, kind of ancient worlds within that time period. And that's the Indiana Jones aesthetic. And I can go and I can take any kind of interesting story that I want and then place that aesthetic on that story and have a good Indiana Jones movie. No, it doesn't work like that. The core of the Indiana Jones story is that Christian narrative in it. And the aesthetic is just an artistic choice that supported that narrative. And without that narrative, the whole thing falls apart. That's why when you get things like, okay, let's make it about aliens instead of archaeological finds of a religious nature. I don't know. I kind of wonder, if they wanted to make the one with the aliens, the Crystal Skull. If they could make the Crystal Skull thing today, because believing in aliens is kind of a thing, and like the government knows about this and isn't telling us, and like, could you make a movie like that today? I kind of wonder, but it's still it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And then this more recent video, it's even worse because they think it's an aesthetic. They don't understand the meaning behind the story because they don't believe in anything. And so that's why you keep getting movie after movie gets put out by Hollywood that just is like a complete dud. I think it's kind of interesting. The most successful movie of recent memory, Dune is a story that believes something and is about religion. But it's kind of more interesting than that because it's kind of seemingly anti-religion, isn't it? It's basically a story of like religious extremism goes awry and, you know, results in a genocide essentially across the galaxy. Although I kind of don't think that it's explicitly anti-faith. Like in the story, Paul is the quote unquote Kwisatz Haderach, right? Like, so I don't think that the story says that Zen Islam or whatever it is that the Fremens believe in is bad. It kind of suggests that like the religion is true. But I think that the kind of the story is even a religion that is true can still be abused and used to get you to do awful things. Right? Meaningful story. Important story for our day. And it does well. And then you get all of this other meaningless drivel from Hollywood, just bombs. And they can't figure it out. They can't understand it because, again, they don't believe in anything.
Block cell.
So see, now I've gotten that out. Now I've gotten that out. We don't have to talk about it. I don't know about that big sell that we just had there at 17.5, man. So when the news came out, we had a pretty hard sell off of it. The market recovered and, kind of floated back up to the top end of the range. We started falling back down, and when we fell back to 18, a really big order went off at 17.5. There was 1,000, then there was a 3,000, and then there was another 1,000 after that. But 17.5 is still bid, so that is a little wild, actually. There's activity afoot. Oh man, look at, so I haven't watched Doctor Who. I don't know what that is about, but you're right. Like, I just watching people's reactions to it and everything online, like it really is, that has really become a dumpster fire. It doesn't work for sure, Lewis. Wait, who's Lewis? Ghostbusters. Oh man, that's a really good one, Lewis. Oh, I didn't. You know what? I missed your first comment. That's what it didn't work well for Gillette or Bud Light. Oh, why am I? Oh, you know what happened? You know what just happened here? Is my YouTube was behind a little bit, and I just got all of your messages at once. If you're building up a Star Wars thought, I'm going to be so mad. No, see, I avoided talking about Star Wars. Do you like it? I could go back to Star Wars. I could go back to Star Wars and explain why the sequel trilogy will be forgotten. But, nah, I don't think I need to. There's an easily noticed trend of knocking off straight white male competent protagonists and replacing them with black LGBTQ members. Well, there's definitely there is. So, like, Yeah, I got all of the messages at once. Okay. So the thing that kind of got me started on that kind of train of thought yesterday was people were talking about the Mandalorian, right? Or not the Mandalorian, Boba Fett. And I liked the idea of the show because it was like a slow burn Western. Like, I think that the quintessential example of what I would call a slow burn Western is Unforgiven. Oh my gosh, that is such a good movie. And it's kind of a slow movie. Like, stuff happens, there's drama and all of these sorts of things, right? And the story is basically this reluctant protagonist that kind of gets pulled into a situation, right? And then at the very end, you find out how badass the main character really is, right? That's the way that a lot of Clint Eastwood cowboy movies went, right? Is I don't know, there's interesting parts in the middle and everything, but it's not like crazy action or anything. And then at the very end, he just absolutely destroys everybody, and it's like, wow, right? So Boba Fett kind of represents, again, they treat it as like an aesthetic, right? They think that it's we can just put the slow burn aesthetic on this story that we want to tell, and then it will work. No, it doesn't, because there's actual like meaning and belief behind the thing. And one that, frankly, like the story of Unforgiven, I don't think really works for Boba Fett, because I think Boba Fett is kind of supposed to be more of like a redemption storyline. So I think he'd have to kind of use a different premise. And the whole thing is that you're watching it, it's a slow burn Western, but about halfway through you realize, like, oh, they're not actually gonna give you the payoff. You're not gonna have the scene at the very end where the protagonist is just totally awesome and just destroys everybody and shows that he's on a completely different level than anybody else, sort of a thing. No, because then the male protagonist would look strong. You can't have that. No, it has to be that the stupid Vespa riders, come in and assist him and are kind of the ones that, and he just kind of leads them or something. It's just so dumb. It was so dumb, that series. Since they're lazy and communists, they lack creativity, so instead of writing new characters, they have to change existing ones for hoping rage. Well, yeah, but again, it's because they don't believe in anything. Yeah, it's if you don't believe anything, like really making content, writing, so like having a YouTube channel or like writing books, writing scripts, writing movies, I think requires a certain degree of humility. Like, it's really hard to put yourself out there and in that kind of a form, because when you start writing, you're probably gonna suck at it, right? So why do you do it? You have to believe in something, man. There has to be something that you believe. Like there are things that I believe very strongly, and I feel that being here, letting you guys not letting you guys, but bringing you in on my trading journey, making individual videos about what we know about the markets, I do that because I believe that you will learn something about the market, learn something about the world, learn something about yourself that is important and significant and will help you in your life. And that's the only reason that I think you can really do that sort of a thing and like actually do it effectively. If you don't believe in anything, then what are you doing it for? you're doing it for your own self-aggrandizement, right? You're doing it for narcissism's sake. That if you write a good enough story, that you'll become rich and famous, and everybody will like your stories and love you, sort of a thing. But if you don't believe in anything, it's never going to happen that way. And so you see Hollywood do this over and over and over again. They write these stories, and they're just hollow, and they don't appeal to anybody. It's basically, if we make these people angry, more of those people will consume our stuff. I don't know if I think that that is an intentional marketing strategy by Disney, but I don't think it's the core problem. I think that's kind of like what you fall back on because your stories are so hollow, right? But yeah, Lewis's example of Ghostbusters, I think that's a really good one too. Cultural big brains hate being wrong. They can contextualize their way out of being wrong always. Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that. It's the Reddit brain that you can't be wrong about something? Maybe. I think that to me, Reddit brain is more about being caught in this kind of like nerd bubble that really distorts your perception of reality, and you think that everybody else in the world thinks the way that you do, and then on almost every major issue you find out that the world doesn't think the way that you think at all, and then you try and explain away why you're still right. That to me is the Reddit is Reddit brain. It's just like this complete adherence to the hive mind with absolutely zero self-reflection, self-understanding about it, you know? I just went on crypto Reddit and had fun for the rest of the week seeing how Bitcoin needs to go to 1 million. That's funny. By the way, good morning, Bull Effect. But you're right. Like, you can't have the kind of payoff that a lot of certain, like a Clint Eastwood movie. You can't make a Clint Eastwood movie anymore, because that would be the male protagonist being a dominant male, and you're not allowed to show that anymore. Does seem like that's a thing. I've been watching the silver bugs on Reddit, believing they can cause a squeeze. You know what, Lewis? I don't know if they will ever do it, but if they were able to squeeze silver in the way that copper has been squeezed, which is to say, you would need like real fundamental catalysts as well. Like people really started to lose confidence in the currency and confidence that the Federal Reserve can get inflation under control. Things would all kind of shift, right? So if you kind of had the fundamentals in line with you, and then all of those retails jumped on board the silver bandwagon, it would squeeze, and it would be nuts. Like, I think that if silver truly squeezed, that you could easily see silver at like $100 an ounce. Like, the all-time high is 50, and I think that they could do double that. It's true. I don't know if it'll happen, Here's the issue with the whole GameStop kind of crowd, okay? I think that this is an important thing to understand about the way that people kind of view the markets, okay? The traditional understanding of the market is that markets are efficient. That, when the market moves, it's because new information has come out and the market is digesting it, and then the market digests it and comes to a fair price that incorporates all currently available known information about supply and demand. Now, we know that that is not true, okay? But that is what the general populace has been taught for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Like going way back, especially the 80s, but even before that. They say, oh, well, the reason that capitalism works is because the market is perfectly efficient, guys. No, it's not. Okay? The market system is good, but there are flaws in it. Okay? There are flaws in all systems. It is the nature of systems. There's always going to be something you can do, get an advantage in any system. And the reality is that the market is not informationally efficient. It does not factor in all available known information. And a lot of the conflict, a lot of the cultural movements that you are seeing now post 2008 are essentially people trying to come to terms with this obvious contradiction. That everything that they're being told is that the market is perfectly efficient, and it is so obviously not from everything that you look at, right? And so why would that be? Well, some people seem to think that the reason that the market is not perfectly efficient is because it's manipulated by large players. Well, it is manipulated by large players, but you gotta understand that like this inefficiency is like baked in at the very, very heart of the market, right? So if they want to believe in, and this is particularly people on the right, they want to believe that the market would be efficient if it were not for these evil hedge funds and everything, not doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do, essentially, right? So at the heart of this is this idea that like the market is supposed to do something, that the market is supposed to reflect some fundamental truth about the state of the world, and it's not because of manipulation. And this is the entire basis of the GameStop and silver bugs and so forth, right? They're saying that these assets are not being fairly priced, that they're undervalued because of shorts, and ergo, at some point in the future, the truth must take hold that the market, if you wait long enough, that the market will come back to fundamental value and it will squeeze. And that's why they believe so desperately that, like, after everything that's happened, that there's still shorts in GameStop and that it's going to squeeze further. When really it's like they got the squeeze and then didn't take profits. And then they've gotten the squeeze again and you just got like a new set of bag holders in it. Why? Because the reality is that the market is not truly efficient. It is a record of the people buying and selling, and that's what determines the price and nothing more. So there is a situation in metals, and you can see this in copper right now, okay? Like, copper is doing it, and it has just been an absolutely insane ride in copper. I mean, look at how far that has gone in, and that's only like the last few months. It's just been insane this year in copper, okay? And why is that? Well, because use is increasing. There's some problems with the supply. So like all of the fundamentals are in line with it. And then you have to get into the structure of the metals markets, because the structure of the metal markets is basically all of the large players are sellers of the futures. They have the actual commodity and they sell the futures, and often in amounts that are way in excess of like the actual amount of silver that is out there and is needed and so forth, right? Maybe not the hedgers, but like when you add the hedgers and the speculators together and everything, you get this market that is prone to being short the commodity. So when the commodity is increasing in price, it gets super, super crazy, right? So yes, if silver squeezed, it would be wild. Gold and silver squeezed, it would be absolutely wild. But there's nothing that's going to force it to happen. There has to be buying and selling. You know, there has to be more buying to get to the point where those guys are being squeezed and all that sort of stuff. So, right. So ultimately, the silver bugs and the GameStop people are like their main theory about the way that the world works is dead wrong, and that's why they keep losing money. It's hard for me to join this conversation because I don't watch any movies and I haven't for years. Well, I watch a lot less stuff. So when the book of Boba Fett came out and I watched that, like I was able to finish it, but I realized, you know, a couple of episodes in, like, okay, I can see that this is supposed to be like a Western, but it is not actually going to deliver on the promise of a Western. They can't, because, you know, it's clearly being written by these woke people. You can just kind of see all of the kind of little signs with the people with the Vespas and like their approach to everything. I knew that it wasn't going to come through. And this is kind of a problem that I've had with a lot of shows. You know what, the show that really ruined me though? And this was, I think, before the woke stuff. And I think this is kind of part of why I get into this. It's because they don't actually believe anything. Is really the larger problem. Like wokeness is just a symptom of the larger problem. The problem existed before wokeness took over all of these Hollywood shows, and you were starting to see this kind of problem and this decline in media before everything became woke. And the example that I will give you, this is for some of you guys, I'm gonna you're just gonna be totally triggered. I'm gonna tell you the show that I'm thinking about, and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, yes, that show. I'm so upset with the way that show went. Okay, The Walking Dead. Oh my gosh, I was such a religious Walking Dead viewer. Every Sunday I'd get together and I'd watch it, and like, it was so frustrating. Like the first season or two was pretty good. There was parts of it that were like really good, and then the rest of the show was like, oh, we're gonna get this great show. It's The Walking Dead and is based on the comic and everything. Like, it'll happen. They're not executing on it. They're not, you know, they got to get the right showrunner and all of these things, and it never happens. It never happened. In everything that ever happened in that show, almost everything that happens in that show ends up being disappointing. And then they started changing the storyline and doing all of this weird, wild stuff because, like, people weren't watching it anymore. Like, by the time that they got to the Negan storyline, everybody tuned out because the one actor that was kind of like keeping things together, you know, the one that actually had beliefs, right? The Asian guy, Steven Yeun, was that his name? Korean guy? He died, and then everybody stopped watching. Oh my gosh. And right, and that was in The Walking Dead when I kind of started to realize, it was like, well, this show is actually the reason that it's popular. Like, the reason people are watching it is because of the promise of the show, a promise that the show never delivers on. The comic book delivers on it, but the show never delivers. Or even when they try and deliver on it in the moments that are like in the comic, it's like unsatisfying. Right? Why is that? Why does it end up being so dissatisfying? Yeah, that show is legitimately awful and boring as piss. It really, like really, when you really, once you know how it kind of turns out and everything like that. I'd never watched anything after the Negan storyline. I was so fed up with it, man. Oh my gosh. But it really is boring. Like they have hour-long episodes, and so much of it is just stupid filler content. The thing is, like, watch on this stream. I do not have trouble filling 2 hours most of the time. I mean, sometimes I'll have discussed the subject and I'm like, okay, I guess we're kind of done discussing that subject, and but and sometimes I will kind of like stop myself, like, okay, I've said enough about this thing. But when I get on a subject and I'm passionate about it, there's like, I could never say enough about it because it goes so deep, and these shows, they, again, like, if you don't believe anything, then it's really hard to come up with content, I think. He used to watch Big Bang Theory. He was our roommate for a stint back in the day, and he'd be in the living room watching it, and I couldn't listen to 30 seconds of that show without wanting to die. I really like that show, to be honest with you. I really like that. Yeah, but like, again, so like, why is The Big Bang such a great show? Because it elucidates a real truth about the way that our world works, and the way a group of people that are have quite a strong influence on society now, and that the world has kind of ignored and not wanted to accept. And so now when you finally get a show that understand, that, because to me, the what is the meaning behind that show, right? Like, you have to believe in something. What is the thing that you believe? Is that there are people out there that are kind of neurodivergent and are kind of a little bit, like, weird, but they still make valuable contributions to society. That's what that show is about to me. It's terribly unfunny. Dude, if you're really into the nerd pop culture, it's just so good, man. But the thing that I find so interesting about that show is my wife is not into the nerd culture stuff at all. Sometimes I look back on it because my wife, I would say, is very low in what do we call it? Like, the personality trait of acceptance, right? Like, if you come in with a new idea, she doesn't care. If you're doing something that is like different from the norm, like, she's not interested in it. She is an openness is what I would say. She's not a very open person, in my opinion. So she kind of doesn't like nerd stuff, right? Like, she has this almost reflexive dislike for, if you're playing video games, for instance, right? So for some reason, she knows that it's a dumb feeling, but she still gets that feeling like they're playing video games. I don't like video games, sort of a thing, right? Because, like, when you were a kid, that was what the cultural expectation was, right? Despite that, she loves that show. So I don't. It's funny for the people that are not neurodivergent too. So it's really good. Probably single-handedly gave rise to the neurodivergent as a virtue. Well, yeah, let me tell you, here's what's going on with that, though, right? Is neurodivergent thinking is a really critical, interesting part of how society works. Like you're talking about 10 to 20% of people here, actually. So, and that's a pretty significant thing. And basically the way that it's worked throughout all of society is we don't care about these people. We don't care to understand them. And it's because these are just weird people. Okay, like my son, he is full on autistic. There's something wrong with him, man. And anybody that's going to come through and starts interacting with him is going to be like, why the heck are you so unhinged all the freaking time and just want to go and destroy everything? There's something wrong with you, and I don't know how to deal with it. That's like autism at its furthest. That's what it is. And you can look back on a lot of stories, and these stories have autistic people in them, without actually understanding it. Like the author knew a person in their life that was like this, and it was kind of tragic, but they didn't know what autism was, and they don't realize that that person was autistic. And that's in a lot of stories. So like the black guy in the Green Mile, autistic. I forget what the character's name is in Of Mice and Men. The big guy that's dumb. You just think, oh, he's just a dumb guy. He's autistic, guys. He's autistic. That's the sort of stuff that happens to autistic person can end up like, oh, I love this mouse, and then end up killing it and whatnot, right? He was autistic. So what has happened more recently is now we actually understand what autism and ADHD is. And we're also very much starting to realize that it is one of the most significant cultural, societal problems that we have. Which is to say, people with ADHD and with autism perform significantly worse compared to the rest of the population. Okay, like lifetime earnings for people with ADHD is a lot less. Okay, and yeah, there's societal problems involved with that. And when you understand what the condition is and you are able to make accommodations for those people, their outcomes are so exponentially better, and it's like almost nothing off of your back. All you have to do is just take time to understand it and adjust your own model and thinking when interacting with that person. That's all there is to it. Like as a regular person, because the part of the brain that is affected by autism and ADHD, it's like that frontal cortex. It's like the machine learning part of the brain that is able to take lots of really big, a large number of completely separate data points and combine it all together and make a conclusion very, very quickly, right? These are the parts of the brain that are involved in communication and social behavior. They have to be able to work like that and be really quick to be able to handle the quick situations that you are in social, right? When you're talking to people, that there's all of this stuff going on. You have to process it all very quickly, right? That's the part of the brain that is affected in them, but that is works in most people. And that is also the part of the brain that it will be really good at understanding an autistic person, right? So neurotypical people are perfectly suited to being able to understand an autistic person and help them. And all they have to do is get the model, understand what it is, how it affects them, and then build that model and use it in their interactions with them. And that one simple thing, you can improve the outcomes for 10 to 20% of the population. That is a game-changing societal improvement, guys. And it's happening. It's happening in our day. People are starting to get there. People are starting to realize that, you know what, like autistic people are actually probably the most disadvantaged people in society, and maybe we should be more concerned about that than some of the other kind of the demographic divides that we focus so much on, right? That's kind of the backdrop. And then there is the people that actually have it. So for the first time ever, the people that actually have it actually feel seen, right? Problem. That frontal cortex doesn't work very well. They cannot conceive. They cannot understand how your thinking is different from theirs, because they just don't understand that regular people, you know, like, the funniest thing to watch is the people on TikTok that are autistic and have just been diagnosed as autistic over analyzing the test that they're given for that they have autism. So they'll like be asked a question like, what is a friend? And then they'll give this explanation for what a friend is, and they're like, okay, you failed that question, right? They're like, well, why didn't I fail that question? Is that not what a friend is? Well, the reason you failed the question is because you're over intellectualizing it. A person, a neurotypical person, that question, they don't even have to think about it. The answer just comes out because they're using those machine learning parts of the brain to just take the context of the situation and everything and just give a quick answer. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to intellectualize it. Right? They can't understand that. So that's a really weird thing to watch. Is when these people get on social media, they're getting the attention and so forth, but they can't actually fully understand themselves to some extent, because they don't get that what they're missing is this machine learning network here that just spits answers out. I kind of harp on that a lot because I kind of think that if they understood that, maybe they could understand themselves better. I don't know. You know, see, I'm in a special spot where I have ADHD, but I was treated for it very, very young. And so it has not really affected my outcome. I've done extremely well in life because I was medicated, you know? And so I was able to develop those parts of my brain enough that they do work. When I'm on medication, I can be very high functioning. Even like, I think that those parts of my brain function better than neurotypical people in some circumstances, right? So I kind of get the best of both worlds with it. It's actually really cool, and I think that it's really helped me in my life, right? So but I still have the condition, so I kind of get this advantage of like being able to understand both sides, right? So that's what's going on with the neurodivergent thing, right? Is that like people are realizing it's a significant societal issue, but the people that are promoting it the most are the people that have it and they don't really understand themselves. You weren't diagnosed till you were 17 and can't say I was disadvantaged in any way? I tell you what, I don't know. So, like, what will typically happen to an ADHD person that doesn't get diagnosed until they're an adult is they will just kind of flounder through school and then stumble upon a menial career of some sort. So, like, this is the problem with society is that we have this pipeline. The pipeline is complete obeisance to the corporation. That's the pipeline. So you have to go to school, sit down, shut up, do all of the work, get perfect A's through everything so that you can get the scholarship to go to the elite college. Then you go to the elite college, you do everything that they effing tell you, and then you can go and you can work a corporate job, and you have to go and work at that corporate job every day for the rest of your life and never rock the boat. And then you can get the big high paying career. If at any point during that pipeline you screw up, you get kicked out into a lower level pipeline. And this pipeline has there's problems with it. Because, for instance, you're a woman, you go through the pipeline, you go into corporate America, but then at some point you say, but actually, I want to have a kid, so I'm going to go and have a kid. And then the corporation says, well, we don't want you if you're not going to be completely, only care about us all the time. That's effed up, but that's the way that it works. And then that leads to that whole societal issue. We talked about that earlier. I don't know if I want to go into that one. But right. That's what happens. So you say, oh, well, I can't say that I was disadvantaged in any way, but
Block by.
did you go to a high level university? Because I don't think that I would have gotten into university if I had not been medicated as a kid. Probably would have failed in high school. Instead, I was performed at the top of the class. Or saw this one person on TikTok that they were saying like, maybe people just shouldn't take amphetamines. And this other person was responding to it and was like, well, you know what? I did that. Like, I was diagnosed young and then I got off of it. And all of a sudden I went from like getting a 4.0 to just doing almost failing out of school. Huge difference. Not ADHD, ASD. Well, ADHD is a little bit of a different issue. Because in ADHD, it's like you have that part of your brain is just like all of the messages arrived slowly. Whereas people with autism, those parts of the brain basically start developing differently. Some of those parts of the brain are just never fully developed. So like Asher, there's something about like how to form words that like he can't figure out. Because he seems to understand everything that we say to him really well. But I tell you what though, man, this kind of is where like again like the openness attribute is kind of an important thing. I tell you, you will meet people that they're not normal, and you can tell right away. I don't know, the neurotypical person, they can just kind of see the signs. Their brain makes the decision without them even consciously realizing it. There's something off about this person, right? And all you've got to do is be cognizant of it. When I meet a person, sometimes I might kind of get this impression that the vibe is kind of off with them. And my tendency is going to be to not want to talk to them. But when I see that, actually the reality is they're probably a little bit autistic. They're a little bit neurodivergent. And if I then utilize the model that I have for how to deal with autistic people, you can actually have very, very beneficial and fulfilling relationships with those people. Because those people exist in society for a reason. There is a function in society that they serve, and you together can be more successful together. That's the way it should be. But your tendency is going to be no. There's people around. All it takes is just changing your frame. You change your frame. because the issue is that what happens is they just the autistic person just wants you to do, you know, give me all of this special treatment, whatever, whatnot. Not actually what's going to help them the most, right? So you talked about like special snowflake sort of a thing. Yeah, like what they want is kind of silly, right? It's like, well, you still have to work, right? I can't tell you, like, this is probably not something that you think about, but just remember that, again, we're talking about like 10 to 20% of the population, okay? There's a lot of these people, they're not going to be diagnosed with autism, but they still kind of have some of those traits in their genes a little bit. And so we really are talking about like 10 to 20% of the population, right? That's huge. That's a big deal. Do you know anyone who does Airbnb? No, I don't. I've kind of been interested in watching the whole like Airbnb catastrophe. Because I've always wanted to get like a vacation home, you know, and then Airbnb it out most of the year and then be able to go there and do stuff with that there for free whenever I want, you know. But then everybody started hating Airbnb because they thought that Airbnb was responsible for the high housing prices, which it's not. But is it finally time for me to blow my nose? Hold on. It was a little better, but well, you know what? Here in the treasuries, I'm still seeing activity, but it's been pretty equal. You know what? Well, I never came in and did this. Well, let's do this real quick. Good. Flows. We had still reeling from yesterday's PMI, and then we got what was it? Durable goods. Yeah, durable goods. University of Michigan sentiments. Long holiday weekend. Leave early. I have Asperger's and I spent too long trying to fit in, eventually gave in to my urges. I guess it could say got involved in robotics coding cups. There you go. Yeah, like you get again, it serves a real purpose in society. So like they need to be there, and people with those kinds of like traits can be very, very successful, right? So don't just dismiss them. Gonna run to a local sawmill and get slab pines and full side of tree live edge slabs for free. Ooh, that's very nice. Except for that it's pine. I don't know. Like you can make slab tables out of pine trees. That's okay, but it's not my favorite thing. But obviously, if you're really going the slab route, you want walnut, right? Walnut slabs are the goats. So anyways, going back to this stuff, this does kind of like suggest maybe slightly short, but overall not really like a big imbalance. And it kind of looks to me like that there is some trade going on here, but that they're just kind of meeting in the middle and trying to get business done as quickly as possible. Picnic tables? Yeah, that might work. You know, it's not the strength of it. It's the look, you know? Like a pine slab looks different. Oh, by the way, you know what? Oh, well, let's wait until after Michigan sentiment. Our programming. We could, you know, kind of finish some of the ideas that I had in there that was like, okay, let's add some new brushes for the wicks, and maybe let's create some methods for like changing themes. That might be nice. And put it up on GitHub. But I'm kind of thinking, now if I put it up on the weekend, everybody forget about it. So like, let's wait until after that and then like put it up on GitHub and post a couple of places so that everybody can get it and or contribute if they want to. Although I don't know how much more that we can actually do to improve it other than like the wicks and stuff. I think that I think there might be something that can be done with the transparency, perhaps. But otherwise, I think that it's pretty simple. So yeah, we just gotta use it. Actually, you know what? Let's not wait until I'm just, because we can see what we need to see about the market from our DOMs here. So let's switch over to our develop workspace and close the main one, and then I do have the 3 on here, right? Candlestick plus. Oh, this is a regular candlestick, and it should be. Oh, did I screw it up again? Oh, yes, I did. Well, maybe I did. I changed the name of it, and that might have. So we're going to be 141. And I don't know exactly what the qualifications are here. You have to like, it has to be built and then restarted or something. Like it can only load it on loads. Come on. Optimized candlestick. Is it showing up there and I'm just not seeing it? Oh, optimized candlestick. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna move these to the other window. That one there. That one there. And that one there. And then we'll get the utilization monitor and we'll just put it right here in the corner. And yeah. Oh man, my optimized candlestick is really killing them so far. Good grief. I'm gonna try blowing my nose here again. And that was the ticket. That was like, that came out and it was just, feels so good. And like, the pressure in my ear is equalizing out again. You know, I woke up feeling a little beat up from my workout yesterday, but I'm feeling pretty good right now. Hope I get a good workout on Saturday. By the way, can I export this? So I think you can just go chart styles, optimize candlestick. Ah, yes, you can. Would you guys like me to put it into Discord? And then I'll put it over here in the downloads channel. Upload a file. Enter. Okay, so it is now on the Discord's download channel if you want to test it out with me. And we'll call it like alpha or something like that. Anyways, I kind of want to go back to discussing pop culture again, but I'm kind of thinking about, well, where should I actually go back to though on this? Yeah, 15 minutes. Maybe we should just kind of chill for 15 minutes. Give ourselves a little bit of a break before, that new consumer sentiment comes out. Because, depending on how that goes, that could be really significant news. Like they're expecting 1 year inflation to be 3.4. Last time it was 3.5. So if it's 3.5 or above that, I think the market's gonna be upset about that. Let's see here. I missed this thing from Nick Timmeros. Nick Timmeros says Waller is skeptical that the neutral rate of interest, or quote R star, has gone up. He offers 5 reasons for the decline in the neutral rate over the last 40 years and then concludes, I do not believe that any of these factors can explain the possible recent increase in R star. With Goldman Sachs changing its Fed cut call to September, most sell-side bank forecasters and other Fed tip sheets now see the first cut in September, with December the next most likely date for a rate reduction. Well, there you go. It's kind of funny the way that those have been working this year, that like we've kind of, I remember, what was it? The CPI? I don't remember what data point it was, but there was a data point where I was like, yeah, there's no way that it's happening in May. It's going to be September at the earliest. And then maybe we push September back. And now it's only months later that they're like, okay, let's push it back. Like, we've been way ahead of the markets on these. And it's just kind of weird that it's been like that in this, because it wasn't like that before. But maybe I just wasn't paying as much attention before. I'm a little bit weirded out by my optimized candlestick performing twice as well as the default candlestick. Can I see the default candlestick code? Chart styles, candle style. Okay. On render, they are creating a rectangle. Oh, that's funny. Some of that code in the Candlestick++ that I hated came from here. But you don't get to see where they're getting their brushes from. I find it hard to believe that the rectangle, you know, that it's a rectangle that's causing. I don't know, guys. This is kind of weird. Did I change? Okay. See, they're making a rectangle right there. That's not... So if you're creating that rectangle object, every time you render for every new bar, that is a lot. I mean, that is a lot. And it could be that the creation of the rectangle is like, is it the rectangle is why mine is like half as much as the candlestick? And then the not doing the brushes correctly is like the difference between the candlestick and the candlestick plus? At least that's what it seems like to me. That's all very, very interesting though. So got, what, 10 minutes here? 7 minutes. 6 minutes and 2 seconds. 6 minutes. %% of Americans say they don't think they're saving enough to comfortably retire, according to Primerica. Okay. Why is there such a disconnect between economists and average Americans? I'll tell you why. Because the average Americans aren't actually looking at the data. This is such a weird thing because, you know, economists don't... they kind of live in another world too, you know? But they are looking at the data. But let's read this guy's response. Federal Reserve put out the results of a survey this month that kind of gets at this. The short answer is that Americans generally think they themselves are doing okay, and they think that the overall economy is doing terribly. 72% think they're doing at least okay, but 22% think the economy is doing okay. In 2019, those numbers were 75 and 50%. If you dig a little deeper, there are signs of greater levels of dissatisfaction. There was a large spike in people reporting doing worse financially in the previous year. Digging further, the thing people hate more than anything is inflation. This is the first period of high inflation in decades, so everything could be as simple as the fact that most people really, really hate inflation. There's some interesting research that people suffer from a sort of money illusion where if they get an 8% raise and inflation was 4%, they still think if inflation was 0%, they would have gotten that 8% raise. My raise was my hard work, and the inflation is a sign of bad policy. In reality, if inflation was 0, that raise would have been 4%. That might explain why sentiment is so poor. People feel like inflation is cheating them out of pay increases, and economists will not tend to take this same view. Another possible reason for the disconnect is that Americans have views about the macroeconomy that are detached from reality. Yes, I think so. A poll conducted by Harris Poll, over half of Americans think the U.S. is currently in a recession, that inflation is increasing, and that unemployment is at a 50-year high. None of these are correct. Well, I think that, so I have a theory, okay? Here's the theory. I think that some things are related to the degree of change, not the absolute level, okay? So, like, if the economy is growing at 3% per year, there are certain things that you can do. Like, there are certain services that you can kind of provide and that kind of make sense, okay? And when the growth rate is less than that, you can't do those things anymore, right? And so what people end up feeling is actually like the change in the economy and not the absolute amount. And what we've seen over the last 4 years or so is a tightening interest rate environment. So when you look at, like, well, how is the economy doing? You know, like, what are the cool new things that are available to us now that weren't available to us before, or vice versa, right? And then you're going to look at things like, well, Disney went and created this amazing hotel sort of a thing for Star Wars, and then it was too expensive and they canceled it. So, like, all of these services, they're cutting back on the quality of like, everything's being in-shitified, right? So the economy must not be doing very well if everything's being in-shitified, right? But then when you actually look at, like, you know, the way things are going, like even GDP is like, okay, it's okay. But the change in things is still negative, and that leads to a negative impression of the economy. That's my theory. Okay, 30 seconds. And we'll pull some things up here. I don't expect there to be a huge move off of it, but you never know. It could be a big deal. So let's kind of watch and see. The micro treasuries have definitely pulled. So 5-year was 3 versus 3.1, and 1 year was 3.3 versus 3.4. So that's actually good. I think that should be mildly good. In fact, let's take a sim order right here. Okay. Spot 1. Oh, for the headline number, yes. I'm a little paranoid now because we had that thing where like it sent me all of the YouTube updates all at once that like chat could be delayed. But I think we're okay. So I'm getting pretty big icebergs on both sides here. It's not necessarily what I want to see. I've got a good spot at 20.5 though. Do you see that? I'm at the front of the queue at 20.5. So if that gets filled, I think I should have a good shot at getting another one ticker there. Okay. Well, I don't like the way that they took that. Let's try it. Let's try and rolling with it. Oh, wow. Joe Biden is hiring a meme manager and is willing to pay up to $85,000. I kind of feel like that the meme manager for the president could get paid more than $85,000. But then it is just a meme manager, so. Hey, that was a good trade right there, man. And the stacking is okay, but not very conclusive at 21 yet, so. Nah, that one's a sim order. If it was live, I still do all of my live orders on the micro treasury. So. I don't feel like that this situation really justifies putting, you know, like look, okay, so I made 2 ticks, whoop-de-doo. Right? Like the situation is still a little tight. Thoughts on the group that a part of the Bank of International. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Herc. Maybe you can go into more detail there. Chris, hey there, Seth, good going, man. How are you doing? We still got an hour left. We still got some time to. I have to say, I'm pretty pleased with myself with the way that my optimized candlestick is performing, though. Hey, you know what? This is kind of starting to go my way now. It just needed a little bit of time. It does look like I could have made $10 from this. Maybe I should have done it live. I don't know. I don't think it ever went against me. Well, yeah, so I understand what the Bank of International Settlements is, but what am I supposed to think about it? Is there something going on with them right now or something? I don't understand. Is the one that controls the world, Dude, the best thing is when you blow your nose and like afterwards your sinuses kind of make that little like sort of, you know, like the air equalizing. Oh. And then your ears don't feel plugged up anymore. Great. It's great stuff. Okay, so they are trading a lot of volume up here. I think I'm gonna take the 23.5. Well, I'll put an order there at least. I might just mark it out here. Like that 22.5 is not bad. It looks like there's a pretty big iceberg on both sides though, so that could kind of make it difficult to get much more out of this. Okay, okay. Down tick, didn't fill. I might have screwed up there a little bit, but I'm not going to stress about it too much. Okay. So they're kind of doing it at 22.5. So that might be the optimal place to get out. But I do have a good spot at 23 in this instance. So there's enough of a chance that I will get filled at 23 that I'm going to try and risk it here, okay? Otherwise, if I had to go to the back of the queue, then I would probably just be getting out at 22.5 because they are starting to put less liquidity up there. Kind of looks to me like the major transaction happened though. And the S&P 500, they are up, but not too much. Like, there might be more action left in them. I just think it's strange that we have a separate entity in a country like Switzerland that have a push towards mandates from central bank. It's thought-provoking. Well, but not really when you understand the way that the banking system works. It makes complete sense that you would have an international bank that these country central banks can work with. Let me tell you, here's the thing that I don't think most people understand. Like a lot of people, they know it, but like there's a difference between like knowing something and understanding something, right? Like, do you ever do something like a wood project or you worked on your basement with your dad when you were a kid, and he's like, okay, pay attention so that you can do this someday, and then all he does is like all he has you do is just hold the screwdriver. And so then when you get older and it's time to do that thing, you don't remember any of the stuff because you didn't actually do it. You just watched them do it, right? Like that's the difference. And so there are some of these things. Oh, look, I got the fill. Cool. So there are some of these kind of deeper points about the economic system that people in banking that are doing this in a job understand because they're building this working model in their head from working their job that average people don't understand. And more to the point, things that, misconceptions about the way that things are supposed to work from basic people that aren't true. Okay, so, and it comes down to borrowing, right? Money is created when loans are created. That's how money is actually printed. Everybody thinks that there's a money printer and then they print all of the dollars and then they just decide to give it to certain people or something. Like, how does that work? How does the money printing actually work? Now, the way that it works is they give out loans. Money is debt in our system. In our system, money is debt, which is to say, it's a promise. I'm going to give you money now in exchange for a promise that you will pay that money back in the future. That's what money is. And the way that we control how much money is created is by changing things like the interest rates and the lending standards and so forth, and that will increase or decrease the amount of loans that people are able to take out. And that's money, right? So people think, oh, when the Federal Reserve prints money, that's stealing from you, because that will create more money in the system, reducing the value of your current money and causing inflation and yada, yada, yada. Well, yes, having too much money, chasing too little supply will lead to inflation. But the whole framing of it doesn't make sense when you understand that all money is debt. It all comes from debt. It comes from somebody going and taking a loan out. And then they go and they put it into the real economy. And that money stays out there until somebody pays the loan back. But by that point, there's other people that have taken out more loans, and the amount of money out there is just constantly increasing because of it, right? So when you have banks, banks are just kind of transacting this money and saying, oh, well, we have this guy, he wants to do this thing, so we need to borrow this money from you for this and that, right? And you have to be able to trade with the other banks to be able to get the money to where it needs to go. And so those same dynamics play out on an international stage, except for that you're going through multiple different currencies. So having an organization that is kind of set up to be a central bank of sorts to facilitate transactions between central banks makes a lot of sense. You see? But it all all of the noise about it all kind of comes from this misunderstanding about what money actually is in the modern world. Thoughts on making futures trading 24/7? Terrible idea. I don't think that you need to trade on the weekend. It's already pretty much 24/7 otherwise. There's a 1 hour where they shut the systems down, and like nothing important is going to happen in that 1 hour. So really, this proposal that we trade 24/7 is really, okay, so should we have futures trading on Saturday and Sunday? It's not going to surprise me if they do it, but I really don't think that there's any value in it. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't have taken that trade off, because look at the liquidity below us now. So my optimized candlestick is maybe not quite half as efficient. It's maybe like 40% as efficient. Oh, more efficient. Or rather, it's like this times 0.6 or something like that. Let's see here. 320 divided by 549 equals 0.58, almost 0.6. So where did I take my trade off? 23. Oh no, wasn't terrible at all. Just one more, but I'm kind of thinking, okay, so like there's a big order at 24. I think they might fill that big order at 24. But seeing these really big
Block
stacks suggests to me that there is still some big players out there doing something, and that this is going to continue to trend until they're done executing. I don't know if they can get all the way back to like 109 even, but there might be a little bit more in this. I mean, they're doing all of the things that usually makes me get out. Like really big transactions in that area, and it's slowing down, the latent liquidity getting low. If I hadn't have gotten out, I would definitely be looking to get out maybe after 24. So unless they really just blow through that, right? But like that's the whole thing, is the volume is still coming, so there's something more going on beyond what I was expecting. Maybe be more than just the University of Michigan numbers that just came out. Looks like Zero Hedge has pinned the Ukraine enforces desperate conscription laws as Russian troops close in on Kharkiv. Dude, if the Russians take Kharkiv, that's a pretty big loss, isn't it? It kind of brings me back to, like, I don't think that Russia is going to be able to take over Kiev, and I kind of suspect that the West might step in and get more involved if that started to become a possibility. But at the same time, it also seems to me like Ukraine was never meant to win. Like the West did not support Ukraine in a way that would allow them to outright win. They were always kind of a sacrificial lamb to kind of permanently maim Russia, rather than to actually outright win the conflict. And that really bothers me. We're kind of using them and letting this awful thing happen to that country, because that Ukraine is decimated, man. It's been a brutal war. The situation in the UK has turned tragicomical. That's a new word. Oh, man. Well, they're still at 23.5 though. Let's reset things so we can kind of keep track of that a little bit better. Looks like there's a new story on this Jane Street's lawsuit thing. Jane Street Group was spared for now from having to share trade secrets with former traders it sued after they left for a rival firm. Study finds that 52% of ChatGPT answers to programming questions are wrong? Wow, is it really that bad? Do you think that NVIDIA will do as well when everybody realizes that LLM is not that great? For some reason, Reddit wants me to read the Stop Eating Seed Oils subreddit. I've definitely seen a lot of stuff about like why seed oils are bad and everything, but are they that bad? Are they really like you shouldn't eat any seed oils ever and like it's destroying your body and society sort of a thing? Because that's kind of what these headlines make it sound like. Mm. Okay, they are now below 23. Still trading a lot up here though. I'm actually really pleased. I was like, I think I might get out too early and regret this. And part of that was that, like, when I took that trade, I didn't expect it to go as far as it did. I kind of looked away from it and it was up there and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. That's an eight ticker? What? Okay. But I did read it really well, apparently. I don't know if I think that I have more edge in getting out than I do in getting in, right? Like what is something that explicitly tells me like that's a good place to get in? I don't know if I have that. I think that it's just once I realize that there's going to be an imbalance in the flows, then I take it where it's at. You know, with some degree of factoring in like catching the edge and icebergs and so forth. But I don't think that I have very clear like get in signals, but I do have very clear get out signals, and I feel like I'm starting to get really good at reading them. Wondering if we're gonna see absorption around here, trap the buyers and press it down. Well, no, I wouldn't look at things like that, right? Like the way that I approach this is there's gonna be a meta order, right? There's a large meta order, they're gonna buy it up. Then you know they finish executing the meta order, and when the meta order finishes, there's gonna be a short-term mean reversion period like this. And then we're done. And then it won't do anything else unless another meta order comes in. Maybe the meta order goes down. Sometimes you get a meta order comes in right here. Those are the ones that you got to worry about, because then they go lower than where they were before. So I think that we are here. You are here based on what we're seeing. So like this thing like trap the buyers and flush it down or squeeze them out or something like that, that doesn't really make sense. Like what should happen is we should just, kind of settle. And then everybody goes on vacation for the weekend. If it started pulling games like that and everything like that, that would be kind of weird in this situation, to be honest with you. Because, like, why? It's a freaking Friday before a 3-day weekend. Why would you? And it's almost, well, I guess there's an hour left until the London session closes. But, like, you're really going to take risks and create all sorts of weird shenanigans like that for pennies on a Friday? You really think that the market makers are going to do that? You know what I mean? So, sorry, psychosis. But I don't think that's a very realistic scenario. And that's kind of the issue with these. There's a lot of popular market approaches out there that rely very much on the idea that, like, everything is manipulated and you've got to, avoid the manipulation and take advantage of it or something like that. And the issue that, like, kind of the linchpin of why all of these approaches fail is that the kind of manipulation that they're talking about, while possible, is extremely risky, right? Like, if I'm gonna buy things up to squeeze people out, that means I'm taking on inventory. I'm increasing my risk to make that happen and then possibly squeeze the upside so that it breaks out, right? Like, why would I do that if I didn't have to? Right? Like, why would a large institution take that kind of a risk? Because what if you take on all of that and then some headline comes out and screws you? Or what if somebody else out there is trading and decides to hold the line against you? And then the breakout doesn't occur. And now you're long all those contracts. You're going to have to sell them and it's going to come back down. And it's going to be a loss, right? This is just too risky. It's just too risky. The largest players want to minimize their impact on the market as much as possible. They are going to move the market. It's unavoidable. But they want to reduce that impact, and they want to be as sneaky about it as possible so that by the time you realize that it's happening, it's already happened, right? That's why we try to anticipate them and get ahead of those order flows. I think I did a pretty good job of that with this one. That was like, okay, I think that what just came out there on the University of Michigan numbers is fairly significant. And we are seeing enough activity and behavior out there that I think that we could get a little bit of a rise. And so I caught it. And then I just happened to catch a spot where I got really good fills and everything, right? So there was kind of a little bit of that. But it happened. The large meta order came up. I saw where it was starting to reach the limit of its impact and rebalance. And so I took it off. I think that that's a really useful approach. Not that, like, people can't, like, get squeezed and stuff. It's just like you'll start hallucinating. If you take that approach, you'll start hallucinating. You want to see it everywhere, even on late on a Friday when everybody's getting ready for a 3-day weekend. Yeah. So think mull on that one over the weekend. Mull on that one over the weekend. The one kind of key caveat that I got here to this whole market is that even though it is a weekend and everything, it does look like there are some large players that still have some transactions to do for whatever reason. So I think you're going to continue to see this thing go. You could probably still pick off one tickers. What's this? Clarence Thomas makes a full-throated case for racial gerrymandering in his startling concurrence to Justice Paulton Brown versus the Board of Education for empowering the court to limit racist redistricting. I'm kind of skeptical that they're presenting his argument accurately. I do kind of wonder that, like, when you look at the way that districts are formed, like, I don't really feel like that there is a neutral way of doing it. Right? Like I said, all systems have flaws. And the way that the system is right now is that the racial makeup of the district is like the most important factor, and I kind of wonder if it really actually always should. But not enough that I would, like, as a Supreme Court, write something like what they say Clarence Thomas is right now. Let's see what he say. Oh, he's saying something completely different. The Supreme Court, he argued, should overrule every precedent that limits gerrymandering, including the landmark cases establishing the one person, one vote, because it has no constitutional power to redraw maps in the first place. He probably actually is right. Like, if you want to solve gerrymandering, it kind of has to be done at the state level. But that would result in probably negative impacts on racial groups. So, but there is a law. I don't know if the law is the law that says that the racial makeup of the district and all that sort of stuff. I forget what the name of that law is. I don't think that law is unconstitutional. So maybe I disagree with Clarence. But I do feel like that the headline was, well, of course it's from Slate, was misrepresenting Clarence Thomas's opinion. I tell you what, it does not feel like Friday to me. Probably because the kids, school ended on Wednesday. Yesterday felt like Friday, and now it feels like it's a Saturday morning, AOC frustrated that her voters were excited to see Trump. Oh my gosh, did you see that rally yesterday? It was huge. Like in the Bronx, I'm like, what? Here's an interesting question. Let's see. From r/quant, is Hearst exponent actually used in the industry? I've read a fair bit on it and toyed with it, but I'm wondering if it has actually been used in profitable strategies for anyone. Top reply, no. I've seen it used before, more so to determine when to use a strategy or predict a regime shift. If the system you're modeling is becoming more chaotic, the less accurate your models will be, and you may want to look at creating a new strategy or using an old strategy if those models are still running and the system is more predictive. Alternatively, rather than using it to model your system, you might use it as a variable of the overall market or economy that can be useful in looking for opportunities, or perhaps certain strategies will work better in more or less chaotic environments. Oh, I really like what this guy is saying. But I haven't seen it used in any specific strategies or models, more as a holistic guide on where to look and whether or not you should do something. I know there's research on using it elsewhere, but there's research on using anything anywhere. It doesn't mean it's good though. Perhaps some people have created good strategies using it, but I haven't seen one. I have seen some ideas on how to use it in a strategy as a way to predict the riskiness of something, but nothing worked out there. As a holistic measure though, it's fairly useful. That's super interesting. Okay. How does increasing interest rates lower inflation if inflation is caused by creating money in excess of goods/services? Well, it makes it more difficult to create more loans, and ergo less money is created, because loans is how money is created. I gave the simple answer. I should go and post on r/economics. Now this guy says, selling treasuries removes money from banks' reserves. So for any bank short of reserves at the end of the day, there is less extra in the market on bid And so it pushes bids up, and thus base interest banks can make by having extra reserves. So this is their alternative to lending, so lending rates must come up to compensate. But since 2000, that doesn't quite make sense. Why does interest rates doing that make that happen, right? Here's this guy saying, the Federal Reserve raises rates by selling U.S. Treasuries mostly. No, I mean, they do sell treasuries are not buy as many treasuries, but. Oh, I'm sorry. I muted myself. Why did I mute myself? Oh, because I blew my nose. I was just saying I was typing something and I submitted it. I don't know if they'll actually take it because that's one of those subreddits where like top level comments have to be approved and whatnot. But the other people weren't answering the question correctly, so I answered. And now it's time for me to go, guys. So I think we will be here on Monday, but I don't know what we'll do. Why, we've got some things to do. I may just, well, I could stream and we could write scripts because that's probably what I would be doing otherwise. But maybe, you know, I don't know. You'll just find out on Monday if I'm here or not, but I'll definitely see you on Tuesday because maybe I just go to the gym on Monday. Anyways, guys, I'm excited for the weekend. I hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday. Stay excellent, team.